And Mel Kiper Jr. has been around forever. The iconic Mel Kiper Jr. dropped his latest mock draft on ESPN.com. And we're going to do tons of mock drafts, have a lot of interviews with draft nicks and draft gurus throughout the draft season. But we're going to kind of react to some of these. And this one's very interesting. We're going to kind of cruise through this one pretty rapidly. But first pick, he has the Tennessee Titans taking Penn State outside linebacker, edge rusher, Abdul Carter. So he's got Abdul Carter going to the Titans as the number 1 pick. Now, I think that Abdul Carter, he is built of that cloth. Von Miller, Micah Parsons, those type of athletes. If you look at his PFF rankings, I mean, he was over 91. If you look at tackles for loss, pressures, everything was elite. And I think there's always something to be said about take the best player in the draft. Don't necessarily always draft for need. If you think that he's a generational, transcendent edge rusher, he's going to make life hell for quarterbacks for you to come. So I know a lot of people probably want to see them trade up, get Cam Ward, who I think is the most talented quarterback in this draft, but I don't hate the idea. In fact, I actually love the idea of Abdul Carter going number 1 because it's not sexy as a quarterback, but you know, we're some Big Ten heads, watch a lot of Big Ten football. How do we do it? I mean, the 11.
He got a bunch of them.
They do the 11 because it's the 11 because like you had him and all the great edges there. But I liked it. I like Abdul Carter going number 1.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Abdul Carter is a blue chip recruit. He's by far the best edge rusher in this draft. But if I'm the Titans and I'm going for the generational talent of the group, Travis Hunter, to me, Doug, is the best player in the draft.
Sure.
I mean, he's Shohei Ohtani in football. He will go out there and lock up one side of the field, and then he can go on the other side and get you 8 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. So when I see all of those things, and I'm the Titans, and I'm looking, and their GM came out and said, if there's a generational talent in the draft, if there's a guy that they feel like is a blue chip level recruit or a blue chip level prospect, we're going to highly consider that prospect. Abdul Carter, if there wasn't Travis Hunter in the draft, Doug, no question, Abdul Carter, I think, being number 1, I'm all for it. With Travis Hunter here, though, he would have Nashville rocking in ways that it never has before. Maybe since Derrick Henry and Chris Johnson. He's filling up the seats. I mean, he's going to be plastered all over the city. And if you have any faith in Will Levis, if you're still in on the experiment, there's not a better weapon in the draft than Travis Hunter. So when I look at all of this, I do love Abdul, but I would love to see him paired up with maybe Myles Garrett in Cleveland. And then you'll have Travis Hunter in Nashville as a member of the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think with Travis Hunter, I think immediately day one, as soon as the cleats hit the grass, he's a top 10 cornerback, maybe even a top 5 cornerback. And then he has the potential to be a top 10 receiver too. And as you pointed out, the 2-way player status, I think the Titans are a team where it's like, I mean, who can name like 5 Titans players right now, right? So, I mean, I think the box office appeal of that is certainly enticing too. At the number 2 pick, he has the Cleveland Browns selecting Cam Ward. I think when you look at what Cam Ward has done throughout his career, I mean, years past, it was, quarterbacks, if they're too old and they're draft eligible, is there something wrong? Let's look under the hood. What's wrong with this car, right? No, it just means they have more experience. You've seen guys like Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. It feels like the game is trending towards plug-and-play, experience-based quarterbacks. I think from an arm talent standpoint, Cam Ward is certainly the most talented and the highest floor of the elite-ish quarterbacks in this draft. So I like that with Cam Ward. We got number 3. You got your guy going Travis Hunter to the Giants. I mean, talk about box office appeal, talk about marquee names. Travis Hunter going to New York wouldn't be so bad. So I think that's something really interesting as well. I think you could make the case too that him and it's razor thin between him and Abdul Carter, who's the best overall prospect just in general for this draft. But I think that the sexiness of a Travis Hunter, I mean, he's a Heisman winner. I think the work ethic too is off the charts. I think the character too, just honestly dealing with like dudes talking about your girl on X, like I think he's got the thick skin to handle New York.
Yeah, no question. And I mean, at the end of this is academic All-American too, Doug. Let's not forget that. This is a guy who really checks all the boxes. Like, yeah. I think the whole situation where people clown on him and his girlfriend, I mean, that's just, you're trying to find some sort of ketchup stain on that white t-shirt. And that's what people pointed to, because you really can't look at anything else. And I thought that was a bit ridiculous too. I mean, he ran this guy off the internet for what? Like, why do you care so much about his relationship?
For sure. I totally agree with that 100%. And then they have the Patriots taking Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU, best lineman in this draft. Vrabel's already talked about building a new era of Patriots football in the trenches. This feels like a Patriots pick to me.
Easily. I like him a lot. I mean, he put it out there best when he said that as an offensive lineman, we're not allowed to give up 2 sacks a game. You know, he understands the standard in which it takes to play the position. I think he'll be impactful right away, which is usually surprising for young offensive linemen.
And I think, too, in this situation, if this draft goes, I think, like how we both think it will be, Hunter and Carter probably going to be off the board even as early as 4 picks. So you basically have one of those elite-ish quarterbacks available. This could be a trade back situation for the Patriots. And
easily.
You have a team that want to come up. When you talk about Shedeur Sanders, I mean, I think you think about him all the time, and you feel like you wake up at 3:30 in the morning with a cold sweat thinking about where's Shedeur Sanders going to be playing football next year. But the 5th pick, Jaguars, Mason Graham. And I'm gonna have to duck when I say this, because if my Rams fans are watching this, I see a lot of Aaron Donald in him, in the sense that he's the way he plays leverage. He's bigger than. I'm not saying that he'll be Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald to me is, with Taylor, with White, as the 3 best defensive players to ever play this game, along with Deion. But I think just with the way he plays leverage and the interior dominance that he showed at the college level and the size, I mean, this is someone that you're not going to hear a lot about just because of the position he plays. But from a quality standpoint, I'm very impressed with Mason Graham. Just look at his tape, man. This guy's he just eats bodies, bro, and he makes plays.
He's unblockable, absolute run stuffer. Aaron Donald is such a high bar.
I didn't see the mold. You know what I mean? Like, if I see the silhouette, there's that. Like, Donald was crazy because he wasn't tall.
He was 6 feet.
6
feet. 5'11".
Yeah, it might be 5'11", 6 feet with shoes, like DJ Quick said. But he's got that it's like boom,
powerful.
He's got that power, and I think that you look at where the Jaguars at after hiring Liam Cohen. That's an offensive-minded head coach. You go on the defensive side and you get the best player available. That I think really, if Hunter and Carter gone, makes a lot of sense. The 6th pick, we still have your boy not picked by Mel Kiper Jr., by the way. Mm-hmm. We're going to do our own draft at some point, but this is Mel Kiper Jr.'s. The Raiders selecting Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State, with the 6th overall pick. I think as a perimeter weapon, he's incredible. I do want to point out, though, the connections between Tom Brady, the Sanders family. If Shedeur Sanders is still available at that point, you're going to love his next pick. But Genty for running back, you saw Saquon, the impact he had last season. Maybe things are starting to trend in the right direction, because for a while there, NFL teams are treating NFL running backs like they were the yellow starburst, right? Nobody wants the yellow starburst, right? I want the pink one, I want the red one. I think that you're starting to see it trend in the right direction.
I don't understand why people were so quick to give up on the run game. And I'm not going to lie, D-Mac. I mean, as we saw this season, running backs are very impactful to team success. And you need somebody who's a dynamic playmaker. I just hate this idea you just grab any old running back and they'll be effective. I think that's just a ridiculous philosophy.
I totally agree. And I think that for the Raiders, I mean, they've had talented running backs in the past. I do think where they're at, I would be a little surprised if they took Genty that high. I really kind of would. But the 7th pick, the New York Jets select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. I'm just going to give you the floor.
I mean, this is where it's supposed to happen. I mean, ultimately, Aaron Glenn went out into the combine, spoke to me and said, our decision to get rid of Aaron Rodgers is a win now decision. You go get Shedeur Sanders, it elevates this team. I do feel like he can deal with the New York media by far, because I mean, he's been dealing with it since he got to Colorado, since he's been at Jackson State. Honestly, he's been under a microscope, which I feel like as a GM or front office, I'm looking at that as an intangible thing, being able to maintain all of the pomp and circumstance that comes with you. Because if you think about it, D-Mac, he don't get in trouble for anything. You know, the things that people give him like a gripe over is legitimately the fact that he raps. He might be a little flashy with his jewelry and chains. And that's really it. Because you can't talk. Yeah, exactly. You can't talk about his ability to process defenses. You can't talk about his accuracy. You can't talk about his guts in the pocket. He checks all the boxes. My only thing with Mel Kiper in this pick is I don't think we get him at 7th. I think we trade up to 4 or 5 of the Jaguars to not give the Raiders a chance to let him fall to 6. Because I'm kind of with you. I just don't see Shedeur getting past the Raiders and getting to us at 7. Now, if that were to happen, I'm thanking God because we have legitimately the spawn of Geno Smith and Joe Burrow as the quarterback for the New York Jets, which I'm excited, which I'll be excited about. But I don't think we'll get him at 7. I think you have to trade up to that top 5 to go get a Shedeur Sanders.
I think if you want him and he's your guy,
Go get him.
Those minutes are going to feel like hours at that stage of the draft. And I think with the Raiders lurking, Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, Dion having some influence, I could see him in silver and black. I think he'd be great for the brand. I think it'd be a good transitional team where you're not expecting a Super Bowl in year 1 or anything like that with a new regime. But that's going to be the interesting one to me, because I think that Cam Ward, like I said, I think just from a arm talent, if you're just looking at these guys without going to the intangible part of it, just the throws that he can make are very eye-popping. But I do think there is a myth out there that I do want to expose and debunk on Shedeur Sanders. I hear people saying he has a noodle arm, or that he can't throw deep. He can't push the ball down the field. I bring my facts to the fight. Among qualified quarterbacks, at least 50 attempts of 20 or more yards, Shedeur last season, 13 touchdowns, that was tied for 4th. 32 completions, tied for 3rd. 47.1 completion percentage, that was tied for 4th. A 133 NFL passer rating, if you use those metrics, that'd be 1st. And the most important thing, and the biggest kicker in what decides games, 0 turnovers, no interceptions. So this whole idea that he can't push the ball downfield, it's an absolute myth.
Yeah, it's a myth, and honestly, it's just a talking point that like fans and media correspondents just kind of take from each other, just kind of use it. If you just watch the tape, I mean, the tape to me speaks for itself.
What the hell would his numbers be in Ohio State's offense? I mean, he would have won the Heisman. They would have given like 2 Heismans. They're like, here, take a second Heisman, man. You know what I mean? He would put up enough numbers for 2 Heismans.
Yeah, I was just about to say he'd be a Heisman Trophy winner. He would have won the Heisman and a national championship easily.
It's crazy, right? So I'm with you on that. I just for your sake, I hope he goes to your Jets. I hope he goes to your Jets. I hope he does too. I hope he goes to the Jets, but I kind of want to see him on the Raiders. Selfishly,
it would be nice for the Raiders.
On Noel's Raiders.
I would love to see him with Noel's Raiders too. I mean, listen, we would get Patrick Mahomes, Shedeur Sanders twice a year. That would be pretty. That would be
pretty cool.
That'd be cinema. I could see that being insane. And then obviously you get Justin Herbert, Shedeur. So I'm all for it. I think it's good for the conference. I think it'll be easier for him to go to the AFC East though, because I think he's a better football player to me than Tua Tagovailoa, at least from the standpoint of
sure.
prospects. I think he'd easily be a better player than him. We'll see how it works out with Drake May, but I think he'd easily be the second best quarterback under Josh Allen if develops right in New York.
That's bold for sure. Now coming in the number 8 pick, Carolina Panthers, Mel Kiper has them selecting Jalen Walker, linebacker, out of Georgia. I think it's a safe pick. I think it makes sense for Carolina at that spot. They're not going to re-sign linebacker Shaq Thompson. They didn't have a single edge rusher last year with 6 or more sacks. The defense allowed 6 yards per play. And if you look at mock drafts before the season started, this is someone that was much higher. They saw him, he was higher than Abdul Carter.
I mean, I feel like with him, ultimately, linebackers, in my opinion, are not going to always go that high. I mean, his ability to be a pass rusher is obviously important.
If he can play edge at that level, it's the most important thing.
It's the most important thing in how you rush the passer. I mean, ultimately, Michael Parsons was a middle linebacker turned edge rusher full time. So, I mean, I like the pick, but also to me, it's not really his fault that he fell. I think a lot of guys just elevated their stock. Like Cam Ward elevated his stock. Abdul Carter elevated his stock. Travis Hunter guaranteed him top 3. Shedeur elevated his stock. I mean, and I think Mason and Will Campbell have already been solidified as top 10 prospects prior to the season. So I just feel like somebody's going to fall as guys rise, and that kind of happens, you know?
Totally. Now, no, absolutely, and that's the case with them for sure. Right. It's that's how the NFL is, right? Some positions are trendy. We talk about running back, and then it's edge, and it's quarterback. It's how it is. But one position that I think is dependent on the unique skill set of the player. I mean, look at Brock Bowers last year. Is that tight end position? He has the Saints taking Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State, at the number 9 overall pick. Warren, 1,233 receiving yards, 104 catches last season. If you look at the Saints, you got Juwan Johnson. He's hitting free agency. Taysom Hill, he's still trying to make it back from that torn ACL. You got Kellen Moore, more offensive mind head coach. I like that move. A little higher than I have Tyler Warren in this draft, but certainly someone that I think Brock Bowers is generational, but I think Warren with that big body almost kind of reminds me of kind of Dallas Clark, like way back in the day, a player like that.
Honestly, the biggest thing, I don't think he's the same level of prospect. If I were to grade him and Brock, I'd put Brock over him. But I would say the thing he does have over Brock, man, his ability to catch in traffic, contested catching, it's 99. Yeah. He has 99 spectacular catch.
That SC game.
Yo, oh my God. Like, I will say this, for a tight end, he was that Penn State offense. Like, it was actually insane to see. I would say I'm actually confused why he's higher than McMillan though. I'm surprised McMillan is falling. I mean,
fallen a little bit.
He's fallen a little bit. I thought he'd be gone by then.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree. I mean, and we'll see. I mean, it's still relatively early. Once we get to Indy, once we get to the combine, once the agents start working their magic, things can change a little bit. 10th overall pick. He's got Josh Simmons from the Ohio State University, offensive tackle, going to the Chicago Bears. I think this makes a ton of sense. You just added Ben Johnson, one of the best offensive minds in the sport. Caleb Williams, he was running for his life last year. And you had the weapons offensively. You just did not have the protection. So I think it makes a ton of sense. Second best lineman in the draft. Then the 49ers taking Will Johnson. Now, what I will say about Will Johnson, he missed a lot of time with Michigan last season. He also had the same amount of touchdowns as their receivers. No receiver had more than 2 touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns all by himself. For him, it's just about being healthy. So Will Johnson could be an elite cornerback in this league.
Oh, no question. Easily. If Travis Hunter wasn't in this draft, he'd be the first cornerback off the board. Surprisingly enough, with Deebo Samuel leaving, I'm surprised this pick's not Luther Burden. Because you got a guy who can give the ball in space, great run after the catch, probably the best yak receiver in the draft. So I love Will Johnson. This might be one of those things where, like, I mean, if he falls to you, got to take him. He is the better prospect than Luther Burden. But I would expect them to go get a weapon if they're going to lose Deebo to, trading him or whatever they plan to do.
We got Charvarius Ward. He's going to be hitting free agency. So you got that spot alongside Lenoir. So I think for the 49ers, where they're at, it's about quality as well. I mean, you have offensive line options too. You got Trent Williams. He's going to turn 37 next season. You could look to address some run defense. I mean, the Deebo Samuel thing too, find another playmaker. So they go a lot of different ways. I think that for the sake of this draft, it's, hey, Will Johnson 11 last year. If I told you that, you'd be like,
real quick. Do you think the front office should prioritize Brock Purdy's success over defensive success?
That's the $1 million question for them. I mean, that's the number one priority for that organization. Do you give him the bag? I mean, is he someone that has success because of Shanahan, the weapons around him? He kind of just has to be the point guard and get the ball around them. I certainly think that it's very difficult to find quarterbacks that get you to a Super Bowl. And he has proven to do that. I don't have him anywhere near tier 1. But with Shanahan, he can bridge that gap to the point where, do you want to play the game that a lot of teams have to play, where it's QB, 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 and you don't find your guy? Look what